like to invite Pablo Arias Echevarria to present the resolution.
Muchas gracias, secretario general, querido Thanasis. En primer lugar, quería agradecer a mi compañero y coponente de esta resolución, Pascal Alimón, así como al Partido Popular Europeo, por el trabajo y compromiso, y a todos los que han participado en la redacción de la resolución con enmiendas que mejoran el texto y demuestran el compromiso de nuestra familia política en esta cuestión. A principios de la década de los 2000, en la Unión Europea decidimos que el futuro no era digital. Esto fue un error que ha acarreado consecuencias devastadoras en diferentes ámbitos, como la competitividad de nuestras empresas, de nuestra economía o la pérdida de talento europeo. Ahora estamos aprendiendo de nuestros errores y tratando de enfrentarlos. Pero los peligros son mucho mayores de lo que podíamos imaginar y especialmente preocupantes cuando afectan a las generaciones más jóvenes. Tanto el modelo, algoritmos basados en la atención constante que promueven el consumo de contenido, como el contenido mismo de las redes sociales y las aplicaciones de mensajería, tienen graves efectos en la salud y educación de los niños. Esta legislatura hemos logrado avances considerables en la materia, adoptando legislación pionera que da una respuesta europea basada en nuestros valores y a nuestra nueva realidad. La Ley de Servicios Digitales o el Reglamento sobre prevención de abuso sexual en los menores en línea, que responde a las preocupaciones que manifestamos en el Congreso pasado, son cruciales y buscan proteger a los usuarios del contenido que circula en la red y que puede ser dañino, como la desinformación o las fake news. Por ello, aplaudo la acción necesaria y eficiente que hemos estado llevando a cabo, liderada por nuestro grupo parlamentario. La Ley de Servicios Digitales, la DSA, es un gran ejemplo de ello, pero claramente no es suficiente. La situación es de una gravedad sin precedentes, como lo evidencian los datos que debemos afrontar con determinación y sin dilación. Tasas de suicidio desproporcionadas, depresión, adicción o trastornos de la conducta alimentaria han experimentado un significativo y preocupante incremento entre nuestros más jóvenes. Estas son enfermedades o condiciones que los niños no deberían de experimentar. Debemos tomar medidas urgentes antes de que el daño a esta generación sea irreparable. Estamos, en mi opinión, perdiendo toda una generación. No podemos ni debemos volver a dejar solo en manos de empresas privadas algo que va a seguir transformando nuestras vidas, nuestra sociedad y que está llevando y se está llevando por delante a una generación entera. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. Thank you. No interventions have been requested for this emergency resolution. So
Hello. Thank you. As we get going, let's talk about Ms. González. Let's talk about how we heard about I think it was a farmer there in Belgium, wasn't it, who was saying in particular that he was extremely concerned that his livelihood is changing. Bureaucracy is difficult for him. We've seen protests of farmers, not just in Belgium, everywhere. How do you respond to his challenges with this manifesto here to assuage his concerns?
Okay, thank you very much. We are Farmers' Party, and we have to continue being Farmers' Party. There is no other Farmers' Party but us. But for answering your question, allow me to use my own language, because I cannot talk about agriculture without talking as farmers used to do in my country. I'll follow in Spanish y diré 5 cosas del manifiesto. La primera, debemos revisar la aplicación del Pacto Verde. Debemos de revisar el calendario y el impacto que cada medida del Pacto Verde va a tener sobre la agricultura. Segundo, iguales reglas para todos. A veces restringimos la producción agrícola europea y provocamos una mayor importación. Si vamos a restringir la producción, debemos saber qué consecuencias tendrá y compensarlas. Tercero, somos el continente, somos el mercado con estándares de calidad más exigentes. Eso hace que a veces nuestros productores no puedan sacar adelante el producto agrícola y tengamos que importarlo. Hay que revisar los tratados internacionales, hay que exigir a terceros países lo mismo que se exige a nuestros agricultores o rebajar la exigencia a nuestros agricultores equilibrándola con los de terceros países. En cuarto lugar, hay que controlar en frontera que no entren plagas ni enfermedades para el campo europeo. Y quinto, el agua. El agua va a ser más escasa que el petróleo. El agua va a ser más escasa que lo que más escaso tengamos en Europa. Hay que aprender a administrarla, hay que hacer infraestructuras, hay que saber repartirla. These 5 things, I think, are the main things that we include in our manifesto. But I will say a last sentence that summarizes everything what the EPP has to say to the farmers, that summarizes our message to the European farmers. Believe us, we trust in trade, but our principle is our farmers first.
Farmers first, thank you very much. And I will now go to talking about SMEs, second actually. Vice President Hahn, we heard there, I believe it was a young man in Slovenia talking about how he might have to go to the United States if he wanted to become an entrepreneur, and how he was concerned about the future for him in terms of jobs and opportunities for SMEs. How do you think that Europe can embolden its nascent tech sector to stay here rather than go somewhere else? This idea of a sort of brain gain.
Difficult is to hear you.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying there is that we heard a clip there you may have seen of a young man, I think he was in Slovenia, saying he didn't want to have to go to Silicon Valley. He wanted a European version of Silicon Valley. How can one create that for young people like him?
Actually, we have many Silicon Valleys, because we have many very great innovations, and we have many innovation hubs. Maria would be better suited to talk about it in her previous capacity as research and innovation commissioner. Yep. But I think we have by far the biggest research and innovation budget in the world. Yep. 100 billion for 7 years. This is not nothing. And I think we use it in a good, if not to say excellent way. Where we have still weaknesses is to translate research results into business cases. This is where our focus is now. For the first time in the current period, we have already managed to set up a structure how to support startups. And it works well. It's not so easy for a public entity to have a structure supporting startups, because the risks of startups is that not each startup will become a success story, but at the end of the day, the overwhelming number of startups are a success story. And I think this is something good, because what we need in Europe is much more venture capital. And the European budget is a seed financing of this, because it's only 1% of the European GDP, and not everything is for research and for companies. But I suppose you also think about what we are sometimes criticized, we are too much bureaucratic. And I think here, of course, we have to learn our lessons, but it's also on all of us to change our mentality. Because if in Europe somebody fails, if he or she goes bankrupt with the company, this person is stigmatized for the rest of his life. And this is different to other parts of the world. Yep. So what we have to learn is, if somebody fails, help them to stand up, try it again, try it if necessary once again, and at the end of the day, it will be a success. So we need a spirit of success orientation, and accept failures and errors. But it's the only way how to learn and how to do it better in the future. So
a change of spirit and different rules and regulations, but also to engender cultural change, I suppose, to re-engineer Europe's society to becoming more entrepreneurial. Vice President Muresan, the EPP has often talked about this concept, and it came up in a panel earlier on that I was chairing today, about sort of first and second class citizens inside the EU. How can you improve regional policies to make sure that they're more strongly reflected, that people have a closer connection with what the EU and its leaders do in politics? And as I was saying before, avoid that brain drain, turning it into a brain gain.
Yeah. Look, the truth is, since the beginning of the COVID pandemic 4 years ago, we saw very clearly that the European Union provides solutions. It helped people in need, it helped enterprises, regions in need, it helped with immediate support, but it also helped to make sure that never again in the future a crisis can hit us like the previous crisis hit us, to modernize the public systems and to strengthen the economy, to make sure that we become more competitive, that we create a framework in which private companies can invest, that we reform. It is about making money available, but it should not always be public money. Our view as EPP is that we create a stable environment which the private sector can trust, where they can invest. We support small and medium-sized enterprises, and then private money flows, growth is generated, jobs are being created which are stable, sustainable. And this is also what differentiates the pro-European center-right approach of the EPP from the left. The left, whenever they see a problem, they throw money at the problem, but that does not solve the problem in itself. So our approach is to structurally improve the situation. Of course, we also, the Commissioner was talking about the European budget. We, of course, are allocating the budget of the European Union to those areas which lead to growth, investments, agriculture, digital, transition to the green economy, but in a way in which it should then trigger further private investment. Of course, Europe is a single market, and we want to make sure that all regions have an equal chance to develop, and a significant part of the European budget goes to the least developed regions to help them improve. And what I want to say is that we are thinking about infrastructure, energy, digital, so that all corners of the European Union are equally attractive to investments, and the human capital is very important. We believe in linking education with the needs of the enterprises, with the needs of the markets in all corners of Europe. This is why our manifesto proposes a brain gain program. We are going to focus on making sure that we invest at least 4% of the GDP in research. We are going to make sure that our youth is educated in those areas which are needed on the labor market, so that they can strive back home home if they want, so that they don't need to travel to leave westwards. It has indeed been an issue in our Central Eastern European member states, but under the leadership of the EPP, the European institutions are tackling that now.
Thank you very much, Vice President Muresan. And last but not least, Vice President Gabriel, you, I believe, will become the Bulgarian Prime Minister in a few days' time. And you also have huge expertise in the field of innovation, as we just heard there from Vice President Hahn, because of your time as EU Commissioner on Innovation. How do you think that the EU in the future and this mandate delivers on enhancing innovation for younger EU citizens?
Well, I think that Europe has the real potential and power to be leader in innovation, because actually we are already excellent in scientific research. Yes, we need to accelerate the transfer of knowledge from research to industry. At the same time, we need to continue to invest. We have excellent examples like Horizon Europe program or the new European Innovation Agenda, the European Innovation Council. But it's really important now really to scale up, because we have even today more startups than in US. But we need really more scaling up, and that's why it's so important to attract private savings, to talk more about venture capital, and that's our strength as EPP, to create this environment where businesses can grow, they have trust, they need predictability, they need certainty, they need much more flexibility. What I would like really to see, it's not a prohibitive Europe, but innovative Europe. Innovation needs flexibility. They need experimentation spaces, test beds, living labs. We need to clearly identify what are those strategic areas in which Europe will be the leader, the world leader. That's artificial intelligence, that's robotics, that's health. And we need, I will here plea for something that is very close to my heart. We need much more women-led startups, and we need more innovation in rural areas. So I think that we have everything in our hands. Now, up to us to transform already our scientific excellence, our good and competitive industrial sectors with the needs of women, rural areas, small and medium enterprises, into driving forces of our leadership in innovation.
Let me just ask you a quick question about getting more women emboldened enough to launch their own companies, getting more women into the workforce in general. What do you think the impediments to that are at the moment? Is it lack of access to capital, childcare? Does it depend where you live? Is there a role for regions to play into that debate?
Well, I must say that it's absolutely important, the role of the regions, but that's why we need a better alignment between our policies and the ground realities. And I think that's our strength, it's not a weakness. When we talk about education and job, I think that it's really important to bring closer the two worlds of education and innovation. They don't think spontaneously to each other, because we have many different options for that. So yes, with the diversity of our regions, bringing closer the world of education and innovation, investing in new technologies, but also really taking care of the traditional sectors and jobs, which with innovation can grow, can offer new perspectives. That's something that we should continue, because that's the only one thing to take care about the concerns of our citizens.
Vice President Hahn, the intergenerational solidarity is also an important part of this idea inside the manifesto, of making sure that you can cater to all the electoral priorities of different age groups. You were just talking there about how there needs to be a different education, different formulas for skilling the labour forces, lifelong learning at one end of the age spectrum, and different educational opportunities to retool the workforce at a younger side of the age spectrum. What are your thoughts on how to foster better intergenerational solidarity for people who might be voting for the first time in June in these EPP elections, European parliamentary elections?
Intergenerational solidarity. So I think that is definitely the first time that we put that in a very clear way. Thanks to, I hope, and that's the case actually to many colleagues behind us. You mentioned some of them. Lifelong learning approach is definitely sounding good approach, but it's not easy because we need reskilling, we need upskilling, we need better access to education, and that's why we insist so much that adults or young people, we need this intergenerational solidarity in order to anticipate the needs, in order to see how we can shape common solutions and how we can bring together the challenges with the opportunities using and traditional and new technologies in order simply to provide jobs, good perspectives to our citizens everywhere, not only in the capitals, but also in remote areas and rural areas.
Yes.
But I think it's important to stress the capacity of Europe to be competitive. But I think it's equally important to say, and I think here EPP is clearly the advocate, the promoter of pushing prosperity, guaranteeing prosperity in Europe. And there's no prosperity without competitiveness. And this is extremely important that we understand. And I think EPP, and if you read the manifesto carefully, it's so to say a single plea for more supporting the middle class. And this is where EPP stands for, supporting the middle class, helping them to pursue their interests, their ideas, help them, giving them, so to say, the framework to pursue this, and finally translate it in something which creates an added value. And this is, I think, the task and our obligation, and I'm pretty sure that with this concept we are getting a lot of support by our people, and then it can be translated in concrete political work in the next 5 years.
We have heard in the first panel that the EPP wants to do more on security, defense, to better protect the citizens of Europe. We will only be able to do that, to spend more on defense with a strong economy. And this is why the link between a strong economy that we were discussing right now, an economy which is competitive, which is modern, which investors can trust, and the safety and security of citizens is so important.
Final thought from you?
Yeah, all that is very important, but I insist in my message, don't forget farmers. We ask farmers to trust European Union, but we need European Union to defend our farmers. I'll insist in my message, our farmers first.
Hugely important and emotive. I'll let you all...
I would like to say also that with values and innovation, we could ensure competitiveness and to protect the diversity of our regions and to continue to take care of farmers. That's what exactly we need, because that's part of our values. And with innovation, we can lead by example.
I'll let you continue that debate with your individual briefs later on off stage. I believe you'll be voting on the manifesto later on, but thank you very much, Vice Presidents González Pons, Hans Muresan, and also Gabriel, to talk about their prosperity, one of those key parts of the manifesto. One other key part of the manifesto is obviously solidarity, and to talk about that I would like to invite upon the stage Vice President Suica.